Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Wandering Podcast, where we take advisement from outside the box. I'm Rihanna Ritter, your host. I'm an intuitive, sexuality, and authentic expression coach. Are you an accomplished professional who plays the part of having it all figured out? Who's strong for everyone else, but feels lonely, misunderstood, like you can't tell anybody the truth about how stressed you are, how not passionate you are about your life and all that you've created? I guide my clients to deep, lasting fulfillment. I re-engage them with their bodies, their pleasure, their desire. I help them align to enjoy fulfillment and prosperity in all areas of their lives. My guest today is Alex Neist. He's the founder and CEO of Hostage Tape. Welcome, Alex. So great to have you here.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
So Hostage Tape, that's a fun name. I want to get to that in a little bit, but
That's wild, right?
yeah, I'll just give so mouth taping is what it's for, right?
Yep.
So my first experience with mouth taping was probably 3 or 4 years ago, and I discovered it, decided to try it, and just used a surgical tape like in an X, and got to observe myself go into like a bit of a panic and convince
Yeah.
myself that I wouldn't be able to breathe and that I would have like too much congestion. And so
Mhm.
I tried it and then I took it off right away. And it was funny. And then finally I put it on and I was like, and I fell asleep easily and I stayed asleep longer, is what I noticed. So
That's good.
I'm
Do
wondering
you
how
still do
you,
you still mouth tape?
sometimes, but I did find that after a while, like I was able to just keep my mouth closed,
Hmm.
but then it kind of the habit revert. So I started
Yep.
again recently. But tell us how you discovered mouth taping and what
Oh boy.
inspired you to
Yeah.
start this company.
So mouth taping sounds crazy, as does the name hostage tape. And so we can get into why I called it hostage tape. So I started this because I went through a personal journey. My wife and I went through a divorce, and it was through that divorce that I looked into myself and I said, okay, what do I need to do to improve myself as a man, as a father, as a husband, as a leader, all of these things? Because I ran a business, another business prior to this for 16 years, bootstrapped company. And I was also a former professional athlete. Football was my first love. And so when you go from being a professional athlete and then retiring, going into being an entrepreneur, it's a pretty big change in your life.
Yeah.
Making that adjustment it's a pretty hard adjustment that most athletes always struggle with, especially becoming a dad and a family man and all that kind of stuff. And so I really struggled with that transition. I was really focused on my business, lost sight of my health, didn't take care of myself as well as I should because you sit at the desk all day and so all that just kind of snowballed, and I snored so bad that it pushed my wife into the other bedroom for years and created resentment, created issues in the marriage, and it all just snowballed out of control. And then, so through that separation, I went through this rabbit hole of like, okay, what do I need to do to work on my sleep? How do I fix this issue? And like most men, we all have an ego and we're like, I'm not going into the doctor. I'll figure it out myself. And I went on Amazon and looked at mouth guards. That didn't work. I looked for pillows, all these different things that you try to find, like how to stop snoring. And none of it worked. So then I kept going. I dug deeper and I came across this article written by James Nestor. It was an excerpt from the book that he wrote, Breath. It's his best-selling novel. It's a phenomenal read where they go to Stanford Medical Center and they plug their nose for 10 days. And over those 10 days, they develop sleep apnea. They snored like crazy and had dangerously low levels of oxygen in the blood. And then after those 10 days, they unplugged their nose, they mouth taped. And what do you think happened? Everything went away in one day. So for me, as the former athlete, I'm thinking, no way. How have I been an athlete my whole life and my coaches never taught me this? They never taught me the dangers of mouth breathing and how great nose breathing is for us. And so then I immediately went on Amazon. I looked for all this stuff and when I mouth taped for the first time, I had the same thought you had. Before I put it on, I went, wait a minute, am I going to suffocate if my nose gets congested, or like, am I going to be okay? Like, that's a perfectly normal thought that everybody has before you mouth tape for the first time. So my cooler head prevailed, and I'm like, nah, I'll be fine. My nose was meant for breathing, right? So I put it on. And when I woke up the next day, I felt like my teenage son. I couldn't believe the amount of energy I had. It was like this jolt of holy moly, this is what I'm supposed to feel like. It's like what Gary Brecka always talks about. He says, like, when you finally take care of yourself and you think you feel amazing, this it's how you're supposed to feel, right? That's how you're supposed to feel. You're
Base
not supposed
level.
to,
Yeah.
that's your base level, right? So it's like, this is what my base level is supposed to be. This is how I'm supposed to feel. So as an entrepreneur, I thought to myself, this is it. This is an opportunity to create a new business. Because at the time I had sold my business and I was vesting the equity out and really didn't like the business I was in at the time that I'd sold it to, was in the middle of the divorce. And so I thought this was an opportunity to build something new that was really close to me, that solves a problem, and I can inspire men around the world to be able to change their sleep. And then lo and behold, a few years later, right, we launched it, scaled it, and my wife and I got back together. So we are now back together. We've got our two kids, and everything just comes full circle. So
Oh, that's amazing. See the
pretty wild.
importance of sleep, you know, marriage,
Well, it
having
is.
a,
I mean, like they call it a sleep divorce, right? And like people think if you're snoring, oh yeah, just sleep in another bedroom, that's fine. Yeah, we shouldn't be sleeping in separate bedrooms, man. Like not unless you can handle it and control it. And
yeah,
you can mouth tape.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I actually also got divorced, and I wouldn't say like the whole reason we got divorced was because of sleeping in separate bedrooms, but there was
Yeah.
snoring and sleeping in separate bedrooms. And after so many years, it was just like their connection wasn't there anymore,
Yeah.
you know? And
Yeah,
so,
it's all so I relate it to the Gottman Institute for for decades. They study couples, right? And there's this concept that they came up with called I think it's the golden ratio. And it's this 1-5 ratio. So for every negative interaction that you have with your partner, you need 5 positive interactions to counteract that one. So think about this for a moment, right? So in your situation and in mine and many others, let's say I'm snoring like a chainsaw. My wife doesn't get any sleep. We get up. That's already one huge negative interaction. Then there's resentment. There's a fight that occurs. There's two. And then maybe by the time you get out the door to go to work, maybe you've already had like 2 or 3 or 5 or however many negative interactions. Now multiply each one of those by 5. So by the time you get out the door, right? Let's say you had 5, you now need 25 positive interactions to counteract that whole morning. And that's like Indiana Jones running out of the tunnel trying to be chased by this boulder and you just can't get out, right?
yeah,
And so I think of it like that. It's this catalyst, right? Snoring, this issue, it's a catalyst for all these other things in our lives that just make everything else worse.
absolutely. Yeah. And some of the other problems around mouth breathing are dental, right? I remember being in the
Yeah,
dentist chair.
absolutely. In fact, I've
Uh,
got a great story about this one.
yeah.
So when I was a kid, I was a mouth breather my whole life, right? And as a kid, my dentist used to look at my mouth, and I had all these cavities, these pitted cavities in the back of my big teeth, my molars, and all that. And he couldn't figure. And this was in the 80s, so back then the dentists weren't really up to speed on mouth breathing and this whole concept, like most of them are becoming more nowadays. But he couldn't figure out why I had these pitted teeth and just these cavities back there. In fact, he thought I was bulimic of all things. It was really odd.
Wow.
This
Okay.
young athletic boy, maybe you're bulimic. Like that seems kind of strange.
Hmm.
But we just thought, well, maybe it's I drink a lot of orange juice. Maybe it's the acidity in the orange juice. But it was actually because I was mouth breathing the whole time as a kid, and it was drying up the saliva, which eats away at the all the good bacteria goes away, bad bacteria forms, eats away at the enamel, then giving you more cavities. Okay. Now, fast forward till now, listen to this. So I've been mouth taping regularly for 5 years now, and I don't go to the dentist as much as I should. Okay. I think the last time I went to the dentist was over 2 years ago. Okay. I go to the same dentist, and I went to the dentist 2 months ago. And keep in mind, it was a 2 year span of when I went. So I go in and they do the checkup and they're like, well, everything looks great. They measure the gums and all that stuff. And I'm like, really? Because I brush my teeth definitely once every day. Sometimes not twice. Like I always do it when I get up, but sometimes I don't do when I go to bed. Right. But she said that my teeth looked better. My gums were better in a better position than how it looked 2 years ago. And I would argue that I was doing less of what a dentist would normally tell you to do, flossing. Like I didn't really floss. And I brushed at least once a day. That's about it.
Yeah,
But I'm not mouth breathing.
right.
Pretty
And
wild,
that's,
right?
yeah, yeah. I have this very similar experience. I only floss and brush in the morning, very rarely at night.
Yeah.
And I go to the dentist maybe every 3 years, and the x-rays for the first time I mean, I'm not really into getting an x-ray every 6 months. I don't think that's good for our health.
Probably not healthy for
And
us. Right.
yeah, so that the exams come back without problems when I'm
Yeah.
not mouth breathing. Yeah,
Exactly.
it's pretty amazing. Also, your breath is better, which is
It totally is. Yeah.
because of the saliva keeping the good bacteria
Exactly. Right.
away.
Yep. You don't have dragon breath when you get up and totally.
Absolutely. So you had a different company before this,
Yes.
and so tell us a little bit about like the transition from professional football into entrepreneurship. Like, what are the things that were hard and like the lessons you learned from them?
Yeah. So I played quarterback. I was a professional quarterback, played college football, and then I went on and I played arena football, which was if anybody listening or watching this doesn't know what that is, maybe you know who Kurt Warner is, one of the greatest Cinderella stories of all time. And the story of Kurt was he was stocking shelves in Hy-Vee, and then he went on and played in the Arena Football League, and then later went on to the NFL, played for the St. Louis Rams, went to the Super Bowl, and became this Hall of Fame quarterback. Right? Nobody ever knew who this guy was. Came out of nowhere from the Arena Football League. So most of us quarterbacks playing in the NFL, we wanted to be Kurt, just like him, rise through the ranks, make it into the NFL, and become a Hall of Famer someday. And didn't happen, but I knew that my experiences from being a player, and I was also coaching football at the time too. I knew that those experiences could translate into this interesting idea of a business, which was taking video, taking the game video, and then actually adding data to it, so coaches could pull out situations and teach the players more effectively, right? Because as a coach, you have all this video, all this data, but how do you actually use it
Yeah,
outside of just sitting there and watching it for an hour and a half, which is a lot of work. There's a
yeah,
lot of editing that has to go into being able to pull things out and use it to show your players. Because really, like as a coach, if I'm a soccer coach, for example, and there's 90 minutes of a match, there's a lot of stuff to go through there that I'm not going to have my players, my 15, 16, 17-year-old players sit and watch 90 minutes. It's just not effective. So instead, if I can take out 5 minutes of that, that's the most important pieces to show each player. Now I can get more done, teach them, and then we can move on to the next game. And so it was that problem and then the solution that we created, and then I scaled it and bootstrapped it and ran that for about 16 years. But it was a wild journey of becoming an athlete and then taking when you're an athlete, it translates really well, I think, to being a business, entrepreneur, business owner, just because you, the reality of being a college and professional athlete is it's competition. Like it's almost real world in the sense that you have to go out there and produce because if you don't produce, you don't play, you get benched, you get cut, and on top of that, you're failing constantly. So it's your ability to fail, learn, adjust, and move forward. You're going to get knocked down, get back up, learn, move forward. And that's life. That's business. That's
Yeah.
entrepreneurship. You're getting punched in the face, you're getting knocked down. And can you learn from that experience and then keep moving forward on a daily basis? Because entrepreneurship is it's not this amazing, fun, rosy parade that you might see in the movies. It's a daily grind where you're getting punched in the face every other week, and you just got to keep going sometimes,
Yeah.
right? Going,
Yeah.
keep getting up, keep learning, keep moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. You go from doing one job to doing all the jobs in an organization and then trying to manage your time. And I could see where being an athlete, like you understand that you have to have a fitness routine and that has to happen every day. You have to have or as regularly as it needs to happen. But you understand training, you understand your health. And if you can understand health and habits, then you're going to have a lot more chance of being successful as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, totally. It's like when you're that athlete, you have that daily schedule, that daily regimen, a daily discipline that is exactly what a great entrepreneur does, right? So you've already got that baked in. I already had it baked into me and translated really, really well. And plus, I also come from a family of my dad was an entrepreneur. He was a doctor who started his own practice. So he modeled it really well and showed me this is what it's like to start your own company, to build it, to scale it, to run it. My sister was in venture capital, so she was doing it in her own way as well. So it was all around me, you know, on the
Yeah.
business side of things. So
Yeah. It's really, it's interesting because I would say most of my family, immediate family are also entrepreneurs. So it's funny how you, there's a spirit in entrepreneurs and it's a rebellious spirit. Like I'm not
yeah.
awesome at having someone tell me when and where to be and how to be and who to be. So
Well, when you're an entrepreneur, like most of us, we don't like being told what to do. We're cowboys, right? We like to dictate our destiny. We like to go after what we want. We're not very employable.
right.
We're the ones who employ people.
Yeah.
And I I mean, it's funny, like I can't look back and ever think, well, that's probably why when I sold my company, the first company I sold it, and when you go through an exit and you sell, usually there's what's called a vesting period, right? Where you stay with the company and you're vesting out the equity that was given to you for the company. And then at some point you exit stage left and you retire from that because they want what you built. They don't necessarily want you anymore. And that experience of working for somebody, working for a company was brutal, absolutely brutal.
Yeah.
And I think part of it was because of that mindset of I can't work for anybody. I need to be in control of my destiny and do what I want to do because that's just the way I'm hardwired.
Yeah, yeah, it's our design most likely. Like I don't
Totally.
know how into astrology or any of that stuff you are, but I'm a big fan of like the gene keys in human design. And I read my profile and I'm like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. All these parts of me that I've been told are like rebellious or a problem. Like when you're younger, you're told to sit in the box, fit in the box. And
Yep.
then like when you have that kind of confirmation, you're like, no, I was never designed to be that person. It's pretty like, oh, okay, I'm good. I'm
Well,
good.
yeah, it's kind of like, in school, they kind of teach, they have this like everybody's going to do the same thing. You're going to follow the crowd, follow the masses. And I wasn't that kid. I was always, I'm going to go over here. I want to do it different and I want to do it my way. And I'm not going to do it the way you're telling me because I think the way you're telling me sounds stupid. So my mind worked differently, right?
Yeah.
And I just saw things in a different way. And so I always deviated from what the crowd was doing. And funny story about that is Uh, my son's doing the same thing now. So like he's in business class, like he's a freshman in high school, right? So he's got an entrepreneurship class that he really likes because he gets to see me build this business and he gets excited about entrepreneurship and building businesses and everything because he sees dad doing it, right? And so he's in this class and the teacher is taking the kids through that exercise of thinking outside the box, right? Do you just kind of go with what everybody else is saying, or how do you handle this problem and how do you think outside the box? And so it's interesting to hear him describe an example of like here's an example that he used where like six people are on a desert island. Who do you save if you can only save four of them? And there's a billionaire, there's a farmer, there's a doctor, there's a professional athlete, there's a professional singer, right? Most of the crowd, most of the other people, regular people, pick the professional athlete, the professional singers, and they say, I'm going to leave the billionaire on the island because he's got enough money. Who cares about him? But then, like, my son is like saying, well, why would I take the professional athlete and the singer? Like, what value are they going to offer to the world? I'm going to take the billionaire because he's got to access all these resources and people that can help actually make a difference in the world. So I'm going to save him. And like he was the only one who said it. So I love seeing, him think differently too, outside the box. Deviation there.
Yeah. I love that though. I was a really good student. School was my escape from my life. So I, did great in all subjects. But I was a kid that questioned the teacher, like, why? Nope. What do you mean? Why? And I would do my homework in class so that I didn't have to
Yeah.
do it at home. And just, so I taught my son how to do that. He's in third grade. And so he's doing that. And he's like, oh yeah, why would I do it at home? Like that's my free time. but
It's what I call high
so
agency, right? When you have high agency of like seeing things and taking action on things that most people don't have. And I used to do it with my coaches. I always thought I knew more than my coaches did. And a lot of times I did, but I like it's like sometimes when you have a certain level of agency, you can sniff the BS and you just know. You just know who knows and who doesn't know. And sometimes it's this innate thing that we have that we're born with that some people have, some people don't have it. And
yeah.
I feel like I always had it. And as a result, I may have came off as being maybe really arrogant
Mhm.
and a certain way with my coaches that looking back, I wish I would have maybe not been so much that way, but that was just the way I was, the way I was wired.
Yeah. And so if you're a person who has agency and gets critical feedback, such as I get that I'm detached or cold, or because
Yeah.
I'm not really interested in being down in the drama and the details. I'm looking at the larger picture. And so people will get like their feelings hurt because I'm about efficiency. Like, yeah, all that little drama over there is just not really getting us where we need to go. So um, if you're a person who has these tendencies, it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you, even though you're getting that kind of feedback. It just means we need different types of people in the world, and we need people like us, and we need people who do care about the drama and the details because they both matter. They're both perspectives that are valid.
Yeah, it is. I'll say one of the things that I never had that I'd worked on over the last 7 years was my EQ. So my emotional intelligence, because I never had it. I never had it. I wasn't brought up to have it. I didn't see it. I mean, if anybody had it, my mom had it. I think most of our moms have way better EQ than dads. My wife has way better EQ than I do. And so I think that when I got in later in business and running businesses and managing people and hiring people, then I finally realized, oh man, I don't have any EQ. I need to learn this skill because at the end of the day, you scale a business big enough, you're managing people at that point, right? Once you
Yeah.
get past the startup stage, it's not about me anymore because you only go so far with me doing everything and wearing seven hats. And then there becomes a point where I start to hand that off and I'm giving it to other people. And then I'm managing and I'm leading people and we're all rowing the same direction on this boat to go there. And so then my job becomes less about operating and doing it and more about inspiring and leading with my EQ.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You're no longer the taskmaster. You're the inspirational leader. Um, that was one of the things that I found was like, I think in business we can get we forget that business and money making is all about relationships. It's not
Yeah.
like transactions don't happen without two individuals or organizations having a relationship. So um, we can we can get very customer focused, and then when we bring people on, like in my own accounting business, I found that my employees wanted a personal relationship with me, and my perspective at that time was that I just people don't want to have personal relationships with me. I had like really low self-worth and had a bunch of inner
Mhm.
work to do on myself, but couldn't see that they wanted that feedback. They wanted to feel valued. They wanted to feel like we were having some sort of relationship. The paycheck wasn't enough. And when I was in corporate managing a team, I knew that because my employees would talk about what other things they wanted other than their paycheck. But when I became the business owner, I lost focus on that and ended up, employees leaving, productivity not good, and so it's really important that we as business owners can make that transition from a taskmaster to an inspirational leader, and like having that caring, compassionate dialogue and interaction with our people, because we have to trust them to take this vision forward, and they need to feel like they can have agency.
A good thing that I always try to think about a concept is that people want to feel heard and understood. At the fundamental core of everybody is everybody wants to be heard, understood, and seen, really, right? And if you understand that concept, you can use that in every aspect of your business, whether that's internally with your people or externally with customers. Make people feel heard and understood. Now, I will say this, I make this mistake a lot where sometimes when you're in, this position of running a business or being a leader, you might be really good at it with people outside of your inner circle. So I might be amazing at making people feel heard and understood that I don't interact with on a daily basis. That's out of my family, right?
Yeah,
But then I have a tendency to be really bad at it on the inside, right? Maybe I'm not making my inner circle of people feeling as heard and understood as I should be because I'm so good at it with everybody else that I don't see on a daily basis. So I think that's a mistake and a trap that a lot of us fall into.
I think so too. And part of the reason that I find for that in working with clients is that because our inner circle is so much more intimate, if we have any sense of low self-worth, we can be out there in those more like brief, shallow interactions and just be that loving presence that sits there and holds space. But then when we're close with someone, we can kind of try to pull away or feel like, oh, the intimacy is too scary. I don't want to get hurt, or I'm not worthy of it. Or so we'll distract ourselves with a lot of other things.
Mhm.
Maybe it's workaholism, maybe it's business. And it's a constant practice of mine to sit still, look my kids in the eye, and listen to them and be engaged in the conversation, because so much of the time they're talking about something that I don't care about, like some YouTube video. And
At the
it's
work,
not
they'll
about,
talk like my son does that.
yeah,
He,
it's
he
it's
loves
really not
watching.
interesting, but
He loves watching people game on YouTube.
yes.
He loves watching people playing a game on YouTube, and I'm like, this is the dumbest thing ever.
Yeah.
dude.
And they want to show it to you and they want you to get excited about it. And you're like, uh so it's
Wow.
just taking that time to sit with them and be like, okay, maybe let's turn that off and just tell me what's going on in your life. Or if I can be really busy with a task that I'm doing, and they start wanting to interrupt me, and like to have to remember that this relationship is more important than this task that I'm doing. And so I need to just put it down. Also good, set boundaries. Like, this is not the time to talk to me. I'm working. But when we're not clear about that and they want to interrupt, then it's like, okay, tell me, and just like put the thing aside, both of you, and actually have a real interaction. And they don't need constant attention if they can get a real, genuine, close person to person interaction with you.
Totally. Yeah. No, that's something that I think a lot of people can work on is so here's an example. I see this a lot, and I've always been very mindful of it. Let's say my wife and I are having a conversation. We're talking. One of the kids walks up and tries to interrupt. Most people let the kid interrupt and then they engage with them. Shouldn't be doing that. What I have been mindful of is I try to let them know we're having a conversation right now. When we're done, I'll address you or I'll talk to you about what you need. Just be patient, please. Right? Knowing that the world doesn't revolve around you. It doesn't move on your time. So if mom and I are having a conversation, we're doing something, you can wait. This is more important. This is what I'm doing right now. Then when we're done, then I can help you. So that's a big thing that I see a lot that a lot of parents could use some help on.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. There's a lot of just boundary setting in general that people don't do, that they like, and it can have a lot to do with kind of your ancestral, like just the way that your family has demonstrated behavior to you. Like, if you have a mother who kind of believes that her role in life is to be this cook, cleaner. Like, my mom has referred to these things as her wifely duties. I was like, when are you should date. She hasn't dated in 20 years. Like, don't you feel like you want to have a partner or spend time with somebody and have fun with somebody?
Mhm.
And she was like, well, I don't think I could keep up with my wifely duties. And I was like, what are your wifely duties? And she said, cooking, cleaning, and the bedroom. And I was like, so these are duties. Okay, so you don't have any value if you're not performing these particular tasks. That's really interesting. Like,
Yeah.
and the bedroom is a duty. And I was raised to believe that. And so I have observed myself when my kids say something like, you need something, jumping out of my chair and dropping whatever. So I've learned to, you can do that on your own. Go ahead. Go
Yeah.
ahead. Help yourself. You have power. You have agency. Go ahead and manage that for yourself.
Totally.
So you're the original. I love watching my daughter's trace videos for soccer, right? So you kind of came up with this original idea of taking the long form
So
sports video and breaking it up into something digestible and useful.
so that right. So that's one of the more newer age companies that the company that I sold to, they're a competitor of them. And so the what you're seeing with Trace, we're one of the innovators. We're one of the first companies to ever actually do that whole concept. Just the difference was we didn't use like an automated camera to do it. It would be, you know, somebody manually filming the game or the match, whatever sport it was, and then the game would get uploaded, and then we would have the issue with Trace and all of them now is the ones that purely use artificial intelligence is there's a limited amount of data that you could actually tag and get things out of. Like most of those are really only good at like a shot taken or some specific action maybe taken. Whereas we went way more in depth on that. We would add way more data on a specific action, the result of it, what happened, who did it, all of that around it. And so it was using human intelligence to actually audit those events in a much more in-depth way, but also a way that nobody had ever thought about doing at the time. And so I would argue that Trace and all of those have become what they are because of the foundation that I laid and maybe
Yeah.
one or two others in the industry. So,
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. It's funny how things, the idea is like, okay, amazing, and then let's innovate and change it. But it's also really good to not lose sight of what the purpose was and the data that's actually the information that you can get that's actually useful from that data. Uh, as coach,
well,
did we
sometimes
talk?
there's too much data, and sometimes
Yeah,
it's a matter of like which data is important. What do
right.
we actually need? What do we don't need? What do the kids need to see? What do the kids not need to see? You know, and so that's part of it too. Is there's a lot of that, a lot of those programs out there now that there's almost too much information, and it's like, well, how can we use this information, whether it's in real time or after the fact, and is it really valuable? Like an example is, you see some of these next gen stats that like you'll watch an NFL game or NBA game, and they'll show you how fast a guy ran.
Mm,
Okay, it looks cool. How the heck is that going to help me
right.
in the situation? Like a lot of this data, it's just fluff. I just don't know how it's useful.
Yeah,
So, and I think a lot of them don't know either. It's like they came out with this a number of years ago, and I think you're seeing less of it on TV now, but they have all this data that's being recorded in game now, right? A lot of it's being in real time, and I still don't think they all know, like, what do we do with it? How do we
yeah,
use it? How is it even useful? Like, they don't know, and most of it isn't used until at the end of the year anyways, but then they'll compile it and say, all right, do we see any trends across the year that could be useful for like player injuries, for, player training or anything that might show us any kind of trends or any nuggets that could be valuable on a bigger scale.
yeah, yeah. I found that just working in corporate in accounting, like we had so much information we would have our our different managers ask for these different reports and different metrics, and I would I would be like, why? That's not going to actually tell you how to run this business better. Like
That's
that
okay.
information isn't really
I
useful.
love this example. I love this example. So this is a problem in corporate America. So now look, I don't have vastly amounts of experience in corporate America, but working for the company that I did, I got a snapshot into what it's like working at a big company, a bigger company, right? It was like, I don't know, 500 people. So it's a pretty good sized company. And I saw that. So when you come from this scrappy startup, we're lean, we know what we're doing, we act fast, we have high agency in everything that we do, and then you get into this big company and the CFO is like, I want to see a report on this and this and this and this, get it for me. And I'm like, that report is going to take me 3 days to go
Mhm.
compile, and it's worthless. I'm not
Yeah,
doing it. And then they get
yeah,
angry because you're not doing what they say. And I'm like,
yeah,
I don't know how to tell you this, but this is a waste of my time.
yeah,
My time is much more valuable actually doing my job than giving you this pointless report that you might look at for 5 minutes and then like just toss aside. So,
yeah. After I've spent 3 days compiling it, you're going to look at it and see what I'm telling you right now, that it tells you nothing about how to run this business better. Like,
yeah.
it's like, oh, those are interesting
Well,
numbers.
and
What do I do
and
with
that's
it?
the problem with people like us, right? Is we're
Yeah,
the ones who will say, "Yeah, I'm not doing that because that's pointless." Whereas most people will go, "Yes, sir. I'll get it to you. I'll get it to you in
right.
3 days."
Oh, that's a fun lesson to learn. Did we talk about where you came up with the name of Hostage
We
Master?
haven't. So let's talk.
Okay.
This is a funny story. Okay. So hostage tape, right? Hostage tape. Sounds crazy, and I'm sure everybody's thinking, why the heck would you name it hostage tape? That seems absolutely like asinine. So when I first started mount taping, when my kids were at my house, I would warn them and I would say, okay, guys, I'm going to warn you. If you bust into the room and you see me, right, I'm going to have tape on my mouth. It's going to look like I'm being held hostage, so don't freak out. Okay.
Oh,
Because if you've never seen anybody wearing and wearing tape before, it looks strange. It looks absolutely crazy. And at the time, I didn't think of it. I didn't think hostage tape. I didn't put two and two together just yet. But then later, I realized, well, wait a minute. We're actually tapping into this core emotion people feel. People feel held hostage by poor sleep or their partner, and they don't know what to do. And I was really into, I still am, Liquid Death, right? Love what Mike and the team did at Liquid Death with the brand. So I went, that's it. Because in this day and age, the currency is attention,
mm-hmm.
right? You have to stand out and get people's attention. So how do you do that? You do that by creating something really interesting, a brand that stands out and inspires people and gets their attention. So hostage tape does exactly that. It's a very polarizing brand. People love it or they hate it, right? It's meant to be, yes, a little bit fun and cheeky, right? The people who truly get it, they see oh, it's fun. It's fun. It's funny. I get it, right? And they love it. And they love the brand. They love the funness of it. They love the coolness of it. But then the people who are offended, that's fine. You just weren't meant to be one of our customers anyways. That's okay,
Yeah.
right? I don't create a brand to appeal to the masses. I go after a niche that I know is big enough because what's going to happen is I'm going to win them over and then it's going to spill out in everybody else. And then all of the doubters are going to go, oh, wow, look at all these people. They love the brand. This is interesting. I'll have to pay attention to this now. And you're scrolling through Instagram and you see hostage tape. You're never going to forget it. You're going to remember hostage tape
Yeah.
that some guy had the balls to call a company hostage tape. Wow. You're never going to
Yeah,
forget that one, right?
that's right. And it's if you're marketing to everyone, you're marketing to no one, right? That's
Exactly. Right. Yep. So
yeah,
we leaned in on it, to say the least, right? Don't let bad sleep hold you hostage became the tagline. And we went after middle-aged men primarily. Obviously, it's
yeah,
very masculine, the branding on purpose. We wanted to go after that target market because I knew that at the end of the day, there's 128 million households in the US, and over 71% of them mouth breathe at night. So I knew there's a big enough TAM here, there's a big enough opportunity, and just knowing how this helped me, I knew we checked all the boxes, hostage tape. We just had to get through the initial bloodbath of people hating the name and just have faith. I had faith that we were onto something. And with anything great that's new, that's different, you're going to be misunderstood. And are you strong enough to fight through being misunderstood because you see exactly where you're going, and eventually everybody's going to see it once you get there. And that's what we've done.
yeah. You have. That's awesome. I know that well, being labeling myself as a sexuality coach. I mean, my the women in my family are like, oh, no, you can't say that. You can't talk about sex in public, online, and on podcasts and things. And I'm like, yeah, I can't. You'll get it. You'll figure it out after a while.
Well, on that topic, people are always asking, when's the ball gag coming out? So they wonder, like, is that product, like, obviously it's meant to be a joke, but they'll always joke about, another hostage tape product. So
Great. Yeah, my son actually, I had my mouth taped the other morning and he woke up like he was not happy. And then he kept asking me, why do you have that? And I'm like, I can't answer. My mouth is taped. Like, I'm like, it's too funny. So how do you, because most people don't know about mouth taping. They don't understand the benefits of it.
Right.
And, you talked about why didn't you know about it when you were growing up as an athlete? Because athletes tend to have a little bit better of information than the masses about health and wellness and biooptimization, for example. Um, how do you address
Yeah,
the
that's a
education piece?
that's a really good question. I don't know why we've lost it, that concept, that idea in this culture, in Western culture. Because if you've ever gone to a yoga class, what do they teach you in yoga? They teach you to breathe through your nose, to keep your mouth shut. And I remember when I tried yoga, I was doing yoga for a little while. I thought it was crazy. I thought it was woo woo. And I'm like, why would I worry about that? What does that matter? And that's a reflection on just how we're brought up and the information we're getting or not getting. And for some reason, it's been lost. And I don't have an explanation as to why, but it has been. And you would think, being a high level athlete, being around hundreds of coaches over my lifetime, playing at collegiate level, professional level, somebody would have said something. Maybe for me, being a football player is a bit of a, maybe they're not so focused on certain aspects of health, like breathing. Maybe if I'd been a cross country runner or a track athlete, maybe that was an area where it would have been introduced to me. James Nestor talks about this. There was a time, decades ago where track coaches used to put water in their athletes' mouths to keep them shut so it would force them to breathe through their mouth when they would run to train them on that. And I don't know. I don't have an explanation other than that now. The great thing is we're seeing a resurgence of understanding that nasal breathing is really important. We should be nasal breathing. And I think we have people like Andrew Huberman, Dr. Andrew Huberman, to thank for that. He talks about mouth taping all the time. James Nestor in his book, I think, have really illuminated mouth taping and what it can do. And then you look at a brand like us, who just the sheer amount of money I spent on marketing, right? We're the global leader in this category, like not even close. And so I think from there, we've helped pump it out into the world for more people to be aware of it. And then as a result, have caused other people to create mouth taping companies and more people to talk about it in a way that it's just becoming more and more and more of a real thing that people are like, oh, wow, this is legitimate. It's not crazy anymore.
Yeah, yeah, it actually is becomes a movement. Like when you do something like this for your health, it it gets people to start studying other areas of and branch out into other areas of health. And I mean, from the information that I have, there's a financial incentive for us to lose sight of Eastern philosophy and culture because it keeps us sick and it keeps us needing pharmaceuticals. And
Yes.
we do have
Well, I
lobbyists for certain
tell you,
industries.
I wonder sometimes about that, right? So when you think like, so think about this. It sounds crazy, but so, big medical, big pharma, they want to sell you drugs. They want to sell you equipment. They want to sell you CPAP machines. They want to sell you all this really expensive stuff that they make a lot of money on. And so on the flip side of that, you could look and go, mouth taping is really simple, super easy, super. You don't have to buy hostage tape to mouth tape. You can use surgical tape. Now, I would argue that, surgical tape, it's a great starting point. Not very comfortable. Hostage
Yeah,
tape
I'd
is
like to know what the
definitely way more
difference is
comfortable and
for
it's way
sure.
cooler. But either way, you can use anything to start taping your mouth, and it's so easy, non-invasive. Why why would any doctors, why would big medical or anybody have a problem with it? They're instead saying, well, you shouldn't be mouth taping, it's dangerous. Instead, here's this thousands and thousands of dollars CPAP machine. You should be doing this instead. It kind of
Right.
makes you wonder. It kind of makes you think. Now, don't get me wrong, there is a place for CPAP machines. There are certain people who should be wearing a CPAP, but there's a lot of people who may not need to wear a CPAP. It just depends. So
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I find that surgical tape is like, I don't know. I don't know if it's the best for the lips and keeping everything. It'd be much easier to just have a thing that's ready to go. And
yeah, that's why I designed it the way I did, because I find I found that the surgical tape and the tape that I was using, it was just kind of annoying, and it left residue, and it just there was all these user experiences I just didn't like, and I'm like, I can do this better. And we came up with, well, first of all, you have this great tin, that you can keep by your bedside, so it makes it really easy and really accessible. You can take it with you wherever you go, and then it was a pre-cut piece that I could just pop off, put right on, and I can literally get into bed, roll over, put it on in a matter of a few seconds, compared to my experience doing just regular tape was more complicated than that. It was more extensive than that. I know it sounds weird, but at least for me it was. And so the user experience of this was something that we were big on, is how do we make this easier? How do we make it more um, enjoyable to use, and just makes you feel cooler, makes you feel
a
like
little
you're a part of it.
sexier. Yeah.
Totally.
Instead of
Because
an
mouth taping is
X.
super sexy as it is, right?
That's right. Looking like a hostage. Yeah, it's good.
Totally.
But you mentioned like yoga and things that teach you to breathe through your nose. And so what you're doing is hugely impactful because people will start to expand into these other areas of health and spirituality and education and find ways to, once you learn about something like mouth taping, like for me, I learned so many things after that about how to really take care of my body and my health and my mind and de-stress.
Yeah, I never thought about that before, until you said that something like mouth taping can actually unlock a door to all these other ways to improve your health. Like, for example, maybe it gets you thinking about like doing red light therapy. You're like, oh, maybe, I could try this. Maybe I can start cold plunging. Maybe I can start doing the sauna. All these things that are just so good for us, that, because I think when you mount tape, when most people that mount tape, they experience such a life-changing moment of like, wow, I can't believe how much this has changed my life. This simple little thing. What else can I do? Like, what else could I be doing that could be changing my life? So, in many ways, it's like a gateway drug to biohacking, to health optimization, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, you start to notice that the conventional wisdom that has been taught to you might not be that wise, and I might want to start looking at these other modalities.
Totally. And it's funny because I come from a doctor's family. My dad was a doctor, and I totally feel that way. I'm very, even though I grew up in a medical family, I'm very skeptical of the medical community, even at my age now. And it's strange when you think about it, coming from that world.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that is. I tore my MCL about 3 months ago and didn't go to the doctor because I kind of just already knew how to. I took a lot of college classes on anatomy, physiology, kinesiology,
yeah,
all the things. I thought about becoming a doctor. So I was like, I know what's going on. I know what area of my body I have injured, and I know what the doctor is going to say to me. So I can go and get an x ray, which I don't love doing, and I can have them tell me all the things I know to do. So instead, I just I rested, I stayed in bed, I iced and wrapped and, did that for a solid week. And then I started, I knew that the next thing, because I had C-sections with my kids, they got us out
Mm.
of bed right after the surgery within an hour of walking. And you would not think that that's what you need to do, but that's something that you have to be aware of when you have an injury. Like, you have fear of injuring yourself, you still have to get up and start moving. You still have to exercise, or you're not going to recover. You'll get scar tissue and stiffness
Right.
and muscle atrophy. And so, just doing kind of my own physical therapy exercises. It took 10 weeks to heal, and I still have like a little bit, I can feel it a little bit, but um, when I first did it, people were like, you've got to go to the doctor, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. It's going to take 2 years to get back to normal. And I'm like, it's been 3 months, I'm pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't know. I did a lot of Joe Dispenza meditation, focused, visualized
I
healing.
love Joe Dispenza. Yeah, I love him.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's your body has the wisdom to heal itself. It doesn't mean you should never go to the doctor. You definitely should go to the doctor when you can't hold down any food or liquid, or there are, if you break a bone, yeah, I'm not going to try to set my own bone. There are many reasons to go to
Can't
the
think that
doctor.
one right. Heel bone, set the bone right. But I am a believer in this idea of like, there's certain things in our body that I'm a big believer in, like visualization, right?
Yeah.
And I visualize every morning, and I do think there's things that you can visualize and you can just say to yourself in your mind, say to yourself in your body, that can help heal certain things and put your body in a certain state that works. It sounds crazy to people, but I think your mind and your body can do some pretty amazing things that sound out there. You just have to be committed to it.
Absolutely. And in athletics in particular, if you think about every mechanic of every like detailed mechanical thing that you need to do to complete a move, that's not how you have success as an athlete. You visualize what you want to happen and you let it happen. Like, you let your body do what it knows how to do because it's been trained, and it's but one of the things, I think, I don't know, I read it in a book, The Magician's Way. It's like, the game is not to hit great shots, it's to visualize, to imagine hitting great shots.
It is, and it's something that I love the fact that this concept of visualization is finally come out into the public more over the last, I don't know, 5 years or so, and people are hearing that a lot of the greats visualized, a lot of the great athletes, they visualized, and it was a technique that I'd used ever since I was in when I was playing professional, and I'd been doing it, 2 decades ago, and I didn't even know it was a thing.
Yeah.
But I used to play the game in my head the night before the game, and I would visualize. I would go through the play call, and I would go through every call, and I would sit and I would visualize running the play, what defense I was going to see, and I would actually play it in every scenario that I knew I was going to possibly see it in the game, and I would run through it, and I would play the game. So that way, then when I actually got onto the field, it was literally like subconscious. I was just my body was doing exactly what it just knew to do because my mind already knew. And that is, I think, it's not understood, or it's not widely practiced enough. If people just
Yeah.
understood that your your body will believe what your mind tells it.
Yes. Yeah. Especially, the subconscious mind. And I think so many kids, like, I was a huge visualizer when I was a kid. I was always in my imagination. But people talked about that like it was annoying. Like, get your head out of the clouds, like, come back to earth. Even my daughter, I do it to her. I'm like, where are you? Like, do what you're doing right now. But it is a skill. It's not a thing to suppress and shame in our kids. There's a time and place for it, of course. If you're trying to cross the street, it's not a good time. But I
Yep.
think it's really important that we let we make it understood that it's a skill and it's a valuable skill. And if you're a person that naturally does that, you're probably going to manifest in your reality all of those things that you're imagining. When I look at all the things I imagined as a child and they are in my reality now, I'm like, oh
So
yeah,
here's how I explain manifestation to people. Because most people that think manifestation are like, that sounds crazy, man. That's not real. Come on.
yeah,
But here's the scientific way that I explain it to people. I say, okay, here's what manifestation really comes down to scientifically. So let's pretend like you're in the market to buy a car. Let's say you're going to buy a Jeep. Okay. You go to the Jeep dealer and you look at a couple of Jeeps that you like, pretty cool. You don't buy yet, and you're on the way home. What do you see on the road? All you see are Jeeps. That's all you see because our mind, right? The RRS, the reticular activating system, our mind is now focused on Jeeps. So now you're seeing Jeeps and they've been there the whole time. You just didn't pay attention to it. That's manifestation. That's the law of attraction, right? It's focusing on the right thing. So then all of a sudden you start seeing the opportunities that have been there the entire time. You just weren't focused on them.
yes, exactly. Beautiful. That's a great way to end and something practical that the audience can use.
Exactly.
Where do we find you and Hostage Tape?
Yes. So don't let bad sleep hold you hostage anymore. You can go to hostagetape.com. You can find us on all the socials at hostage tape.
Excellent. Thank you for being here today, Alex. Great getting to know you.
Thanks for having me.